Good to have Shabbos, everyone. Shabbos Devorim, Shabbos Chazon, Shabbos Devorim, Tisha B'Av. Hopefully, everyone will be here in Yerushalayim. We celebrate Tisha B'Av with the building of the third base of Mikdash. We shouldn't have to fast. To mix a few ideas, we learned the Tzitzicha this week from the Rebbe. Talks about, again, Moshe Rabbeinu reminds Shabbos Devorim, the tribes of Gad and Ruvain, about kind of their decision and their request to stay on the east side of the Jordan River, what's today known as Jordan, and not to enter Eretz Yisrael. And it left a bad taste in Moshe's mouth. And he constantly was reminding them in some sort of negative tone about it. And although they agreed to fight, and although they agreed not to give any discouragement to the Jewish people entering into Eretz Yisrael, they were the first in the battle, but nevertheless, we find that there was a bad taste in Moshe's mouth about it. And the Zohar asks an amazing question. Why is it that the sons of Reuben and Gad had more cattle? It says that they had tremendous amount of cattle. On what basis did they have more cattle than the other 12 tribes? And the Zohar says an amazing thing that we find, that the Jewish people constantly complained about the man, the bread that came down from heaven, that they said it was this white substance that tasted like a whole bunch of things, but it didn't look like anything. They were concerned, it says, that it's going to hurt them later. It's no way it's not going to do damage to them. So they didn't want to eat the man. They ate the man when they had to, but they also ate their own foods. They ate their own meat. They slaughtered their own meat. And so therefore, at the end of 40 years, they had less cattle than they would have had they not eaten the meat. The tribes of Reuben and Gad loved the man for its holiness, for its uniqueness, for its simplicity. The white represents that it could be anything. We know the Loivin Ha'elyon is tremendous. And they subscribed to that. And because of that, so when it came 40 years, they had a tremendous amount of cattle because they never touched their own food. They never touched their own meat because they only wanted to eat the man. So if that's the case, why does Moshe have a bad taste? And more than that, we find that we're reminded of the destruction and the exile, that in the first destruction of the temple, before that, the 10 tribes were taken out, and before the 10 tribes, the tribes of Gad and Reuben on the east side of the river were taken 20, 30 years before the other 10 tribes. And the question is why? If they are at such a high level of awareness of the man, why were they punished? And it says they were punished because they didn't go into the land. And the Rebbe answers, the answer that we've given many times is because in this idea that they stayed in this whiteness and the simplicity, they didn't mix the holiness, the simplicity, and bring it into this physical world. The idea actually is to take the man and to mix it with the meat, to take the physicality and special all that energy we know of the Benefesh Bahamas, and to take it and to transform it. And they wanted to live a life of separation. And because of that, so though it was a high level and they appreciated the man and they had a very strong sensitivity to holiness, but they didn't want to go all the way in to elevate and to turn the Eretz Shabbos, the land of Eretz Yisrael, while engaging in the details of the land of Eretz Yisrael, to elevate it to holiness. And this is connected to the Sikha we learned this morning, where the Rebbe talks about the famous medrash that the Rebbe quotes from the Tzemach Tzedek that says that Afal Bi Shebayni Yerushalayim Hashem Afal Bikei Nitche Yisrael Yechanes, that the verse in Tehillim says that God builds Jerusalem and He gathers in the Nitche Yisrael, those who are sent away, those who are in exile, come back into Eretz Yisrael. The question is, the Medrash says, doesn't say it so simply. The Medrash says that even though that God builds Jerusalem, nevertheless He still will gather in the Nitche Yisrael, those who are cast away from Eretz Yisrael. So what's the even though? As if He's doing us a special favor by gathering in the Nitche Yisrael. And the Rebbe explains it in short, based on the law of two people that own a building that falls down. There's the lower floor and the upper floor, and the lower floor, the upper floor tells the lower floor, build that downstairs so I could build my upstairs. So too God says, and if He doesn't build the downstairs, then the upstairs tenant could build downstairs and say, pay me back for what I've done, and then you can move. Then you can move in. Otherwise, I'm staying here. And we know that Hashem said that Nishba Kadosh Baruch Hu, He promised that He's not going to move into Yerushalayim Shel Maila until we build Yerushalayim Shamata. God said there's a destruction. Jerusalem collapsed. But I'm not going to rebuild the upper Jerusalem until you build the lower Jerusalem. But if it's going to be Baini Yerushalayim Hashem, if we don't do what we have to do, and Hashem has to build the lower Jerusalem, we don't want to get involved. We want to stay disconnected. We don't want to do tshuva. So then what kind of geula, what kind of redemption are we going to have? Like the person downstairs wants to come into the downstairs house when it's rebuilt by the upstairs tenant. He says, you don't belong here, you didn't pay me. You didn't invest in the rebuilding of the downstairs. God says, you want to come into Jerusalem, 5, build it. Where were you? Do tshuva, get involved. But nevertheless, even though God can say that Nitcha Yisrael Yochanes, He's going to gather in the Jews, He's going to let us experience the Gula. And this is connected to the Bnei Gad and Reuven. It's not enough to be disconnected. You want to really build Baini Yerushalayim, you want to be a builder of Jerusalem. Building Yerushalayim also entails to be involved, not to be locked up in your own space, to get out there. Scream Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. Tell others that has to do a mitzvah. Bring Yiddishkeit to other people. And then it's Baini Yerushalayim, not just Baini Yerushalayim Hashem, we're involved. And then it's not that we have to come on to the kindness of God that He lets us be part of the Gula. We are part of the Gula. We'll be Zoich to be part of the Gula Shlema with the coming Mashiach now. Good Shabbos and a meaningful fast if we have to fast.